Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting this event. I think digitalization is one of the strongest drivers of change in our society. I think it will change the way we work, we live, socialize, changes the way we use resources, our schools, healthcare. It practically changes everything. And I believe that on the bottom line, this will be a positive development. And I think that the biggest opportunity of digitalization still lies ahead of us. Even if we have our computers and our phones and our iPads, the major benefits is still to come true. And this is especially true with artificial intelligence. The government has high hopes when it comes to digitalization and AI. We want Sweden to be the best in the world in harnessing the benefits of digitalization. Last year, the Swedish government adopted a national approach to artificial intelligence. Sweden should be the leading in taking advantage of AI with the aim of strengthening Swedish welfare and competitiveness in the world. Sweden has a really impressive track record. We are well-educated, technologically friendly people, open to new innovations. We're the home of several innovative companies that are global leaders in their fields. We have managed well with significant reforms and transformations in the past, but we can't rely on past achievements if we are to become a leader in AI. We need to work together to make it happen. In a report from last year, Vinnova noted that the lack of AI skills is an important bottleneck for AI deployment in Sweden. Recognizing this challenge, the Swedish government recently decided to invest an additional 20 million crowns in the initiative AI Competence of Sweden. In this initiative, where seven universities I try that once more time. In this initiative, where the 7 universities establish a knowledge platform on AI, as well as flexible courses on AI that will be available to professionals. I have high expectation of this initiative. Universities have a very important role in providing courses for individuals to continuously update their skills and for employees to constantly upgrade the skills of the workforce. I think this is the key to successful digital transformation. I was very impressed when I first heard of the Finnish initiative, Elements of AI. It's a bold and yet simple initiative on how you can make AI knowledge widely accessible. I did not hesitate when I accepted the challenge from my Finnish colleague, the Minister of Digitalization in Finland, to educate more than 1% of the Swedish population. A goal that already has been reached in Finland. If Finland can, we can. And I'm very pleased that Elements of AI now is available in Sweden, in Swedish, and want to congratulate everyone involved to making this a reality. This is a great initiative that I strongly encourage. All efforts are needed and everyone needs to contribute if we are to reap the benefits of AI. And I think we will see further challenges of other countries lying ahead of us. And I think that Sweden should be in the forefront of this development. And I'm delighted that so many organizations already have accepted this challenge. Good work. And I am hoping that many more will follow in the months to come. It's my sincere hope that many people in Sweden will take this course and take upon the challenge of AI. Thank you very much.
Great. Welcome everybody. As it's already been said, but I will welcome you as well. My name is Martin Modig Karlsson. I work for AI Innovation and AI Innovation of Sweden. And we are one of the organizations behind this initiative. Also mentioned Vinnova, Linköping University, AI Competence of Sweden, which are all present here and will speak to you today. If you are curious about AI Innovation of Sweden, we have this, it's an OK URL for AI. You can visit. And please talk to my colleagues here. Peter Kusveli here, the technician of the day. Åsa Sevedag. So please grab them afterwards if you want to exchange a few words. And we also have Agneta Jakobsen here working with us, and also which is a science city, in doing a pre-study on establishing AI Innovation of Sweden node here in Stockholm. As you know, we are located in Gothenburg as well. With that, please welcome Fredrik Heintz from Linköping University, who had an early morning today. Or you have kids, you have this.
I actually wake up before my kids, so
Yeah, okay.
they have to get up earlier.
He was in TV4 Nyhetsmorgon this morning talking about AI, so it's already available online, so you can see him again afterwards on your screen.
If you cannot get them up.
And you will talk on AI, and I will discuss this course with you afterwards. But
yes.
Please,
go ahead.
It's yours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. So it's a really great pleasure to be here, and I really look forward to this course, of course. So, okay.
Sorry, that was my
you forgot to introduce the partners, I guess.
Yeah. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
But these are some of the companies that have accepted the challenge. And many of you are here today for that, and I see now that this is a photo op. So I am Anders. Could you also be in the picture? I think that's what they were aiming for, and I can step out actually.
It's like a trick photo.
Yeah. So, and if Fredrik could, there's also another screen if you're missing your. Yeah. So, and we are so proud and happy that you have accepted the challenge, and that you will educate your staff and partners using this course or other courses, and we will hear more about other initiatives of learning and deepening employee learning in AI soon. But now the stage is yours, and there's a nice image for you.
And one more.
Yeah.
And one more.
Thank you.
Okay, so again, I mean, I think this is a great start because this shows one kind of key features of humans, namely the kind of ability to rapidly change and adapt to unexpected circumstances. And I actually think that is one of the things that's really interesting about AI, namely that we're starting to be able to build systems that can actually adapt and be able to deal with unexpected situations. You can imagine, I mean, if you're building an autonomous car, you cannot choose what situations you're going to handle. But the car actually needs to handle each and every possible situation that it may encounter. Which means that, I mean, it's not, I mean, if there is a very unexpected situations, then it cannot just say, nah, I will not do anything in this situation. I will just wait until something more expected occurs. But rather, it will need to actually take action and do something. And I mean, not acting is also acting. And I think that's a very interesting aspect of how can we start to deal with that kind of situations. So what I want to achieve with this short introduction is to say a little bit about what is AI, and of course, why should you get involved? So I mean, you've seen all this. I mean, like, I've already talked about self-driving cars. We have seen superhuman performance in games like Go, chess, poker, Jeopardy, Dota, StarCraft, and so on. So just wait a few minutes and there will be another one. And of course, robots that looks a little bit scary and that you might think that they will take over the world one day. I can reassure you that those robots will not take over the world unless they're really, really quick, because the battery time is a few minutes. So, but this I think is another interesting image. So this is KG after he lost against Google DeepMind in Go, let's see, was it 3 years ago now? 2, 3 years. So it's quite a long time. But I mean, what's interesting is, of course, he looks a little bit sad. But what he said after the competition, namely he said that he felt that he would never have a chance against the computer because the computer was playing like a god. And I think that's kind of interesting from a 19-year-old to feel that he does not have the opportunity or the chance to actually become that good. But it's also interesting to look at how the computer played Go, because it was actually the case. And I actually think the best way to study that is to study the human reaction to how the computer was playing. So by actually looking at the human expert commentators following the game. Because there were certain situations where the computer made a move where the human commentators would say, haha, now the computer made a mistake. A human would never play like that. And of course you can guess the next step, namely that the computer used this step to turn the game around and win. And I think this is very significant in two different ways. The first part is, of course, that it's not just about copying the way that we humans do things. It's actually finding new ways of doing the things that we have been doing for quite a long time, like playing Go or chess, for that matter, a game that's been around for thousands of years. And still, the computer is able to find new ways of playing the game. I think that's interesting. The second interesting observation is, of course, how should we humans be able to determine whether what the computer is doing is good or bad? I mean, in this particular case, we thought, or the human expert thought, this was a bad move. That in the end actually turned out to be a good move. How are we going to be able to determine this? That's also a very interesting challenge. And I know I've been talking to companies that say that they're very concerned about how do we design programs that we will be able to understand in the future. The current developers might be able to understand it now, but how do you make sure that they will continue to be able to understand it in the future, and how do you design for that? So I think there are very many interesting challenges related to that. Another interesting example is the following. This looks like normal people like us, but the interesting thing here is that none of these people actually exist. So what has happened, what has been done here is that they're used a machine learning technique that takes in a large number of real human faces and learns what are kind of how do a human face look like. They build what's called a generative model. And then based on this generative model, the system is able to generate new faces that to us looks indistinguishable from a real face. And again, I think there is a number of interesting observations to be made here. First of all, I think this is a very interesting technique, I mean from a technical perspective, the way they have done it. The second is, of course, what does this do to authenticity? And I mean, this kind of being able to determine what's real or what's fake. Personally, I'm not even sure what real really means. I mean, is it real that there is a physical person behind it? What does real mean? And I think we probably need to reconsider these concepts. But I think it's very interesting from this kind of källkritiks perspective. But the third perspective, which I think is equally interesting, is that we know that there is a lot of integrity issues around the use of data. So, for example, in the medical field, we have a lot of data about patients that we cannot use because we don't want to compromise the integrity of these individuals. But what we can do instead, or at least what researchers is trying to do, is to build this kind of generative model. So you can take the real data for the real patients, train the system to learn a model of how patients usually look like, and then you're able to generate synthetic individuals with the same properties as if they were a real individual, which means that you can then do experiments or studies on these synthetic patients. And then you can draw conclusions for this that you can then transfer back to the real people. So I think this is actually a great opportunity as well. And I think in some sense that is kind of the defining aspects of AI. I mean, it's not really the technique itself. I would argue it's not good nor bad in itself, but it can be used for a good thing, and there are potential risks or consequences of the technology that one needs to take into consideration and deal with. So that I think is interesting. And actually this same kind of generative adversarial network techniques have been used to generate images that has been sold as art on an auction for close to, well, more than $400,000 in the fall. So you might actually be able to become rich by implementing this. And you have the equation there, so just implement. That's beyond the course elements AI. I must unfortunately have to inform you. But so now we actually come to interesting, what is artificial intelligence? I've given you a number of examples of what can be done and I mean what the benefits are. But actually it turns out that defining what artificial intelligence is quite hard. And one of my favorite definitions is this one. Artificial intelligence is the science and the engineering of making intelligent machines, especially intelligent computer programs. And I think it captures the essence, namely that we want the computers to do things that we as humans consider to be intelligence. Of course, the challenge is that there is no well-established definition of intelligence. And actually, there was a review paper 10 years ago that was doing a review of 71 different definitions of intelligence. So yeah, you can imagine there are plenty of them. Another view, which the European Union has used, is that AI refers to systems that display intelligent behavior by analyzing their environment and taking action with some degree of autonomy to achieve a specific goal. And I think this kind of captures the process, namely that an AI system will need to get information from the outside, sense the environment, perception, and then it needs to reason or deduce what to do with this information, how to act in order to achieve a goal, and then it actually needs to carry these actions out. So I think that's also good. And then a third one comes from the Association of Advancement of AI, which is an international organization that says that it's the scientific understanding of the mechanisms underlying thought and intelligent behavior and their embodiment in machines. So here we see kind of two major trends in AI. Either you focus on thought, what is this kind of rational thinking, kind of the abstract concept of intelligence, or you look at behavior, namely how do these systems act, interact, behave in different situations. And actually we can capture that in kind of a four-dimensional view on what are different views on artificial intelligence. That either you focus on the kind of thought processes, how the kind of internal thought processes work, or you focus on the behavior, that's kind of what you can observe from the outside. And then we can either take a human-centered approach, where we try to understand and copy human thought or human intelligent behavior, or we can take a more rationality-centered perspective. So the example I usually use here is, if you want to build a flying machine, you can study birds and then try to build a flapping robot, which is actually very hard. Or you can study birds, learn about aerodynamics, and build airplanes. So this is kind of the airplane version. So this is the engineering approach to artificial intelligence, where we can understand what this intelligence is, and then either try to build intelligent processes or achieve intelligent behavior. And personally, I'm kind of in this quadrant. And I would say this cognitive science is kind of this, we're studying human cognition. If we take from a researcher perspective, usually we don't, I mean, when we develop techniques and so on, we usually don't say, oh, now we are solving the AI problem, because that's such a huge and varied problem, but rather we focus on specific cognitive functionalities, like reasoning. How do we deduce facts, or how do we diagnose observations? And of course we have learning, how to inductively build new models based on experience and observations. And finally, how do systems interact both between different autonomous systems or intelligent agents, and of course also with humans. So that kind of captures the different things we do, the kind of cognitive functionalities. I think it's also interesting to relate it to digitalization. I've actually taken the lower part of this picture from Göran Lindsjö, but I think it's interesting. So in my perspective, digitalization is really about how do we make the world so square that it actually fits into our computers. So in some sense, what we do is that we define all the concepts in minute detail. We define all the processes, all the steps in these processes. And if we can define everything very exactly, we can then encode it in the computers. And we can get this kind of structured data and general solutions and so on. So what's interesting with AI is to do the opposite, namely to deal with those problems which we cannot define as clearly. And I would argue that actually most problems are of that kind. We're just fooling ourselves in believing that we can structure things with laws and rules and so on. But yeah, anyway, so it's kind of those problems that are hard to define, but also how to deal with these unanticipated situations, like the beginning here today. And how to deal with unstructured data, namely text, images, video, speech, and so on, where there is no clear structure. their AI is the right tool for that. So if we're looking at what can we do today, so what we see actually the most impressive advancements has been in kind of the perception part, in how to understand the environment, how to interpret images, video, text, and so on. And also how to understand and process natural language, text, spoken word, and so on. For example, we have, for example, machine translation. You can add something in one language and get it out in a different language. Of course, machine learning is one of the underlying techniques, but we also have decision making and responding and this kind of the acting part. So we've seen a lot of progress in all this area, but we've seen the most impressive ones really been in the perception and natural language processing part. So, getting back to games, chess is one of these games where we humans don't have a chance. And even the best humans haven't had a chance for the last more than 20 years. Since Garry Kasparov lost against Deep Blue in 1997. But if you combine humans and chess-playing computers, they're better than both the best humans and the best machines. Which means that it's not a question of either humans or AI, but it's more about AI and human together, solving problems together. And we can see the same kind of behavior if you're taking medical diagnosis, that the human doctors and automated systems are making different types of mistakes. So if you combine these two together, you remove even more mistakes. And that's a very old study, so I mean, there are examples where you go down to 0% and so on. So it's really about humans and AI together. The challenge is that there's a different skill playing chess with a computer compared to playing chess without a computer. Which means that you can take the best expert in your organization, give them the best possible tool, and the person will still be worse. But if you adapt the way you work, and you give the person appropriate training in how to use the tool, then you will see huge improvements. So I think that's very important to realize. The tool itself would not solve the problem on its own. You need to work with how you organize your work and how you train the people. Very important. So actually, this kind of human-centered approach is also the basis for the work that we do in the European Union. So I'm part of what's called the European Union high-level expert group on AI, where we're doing two things. First, we have developed an ethical guideline for AI that was published a month ago, and now we're working with policy and investment recommendations for the new commission and also for the member states in how to actually achieve this trustworthy, human-centered AI that we are working with. And I think what's very important here is that in order to be trustworthy, the AI has to be lawful, it has to be ethical, and it has to be robust, which means that it has to follow the law, which is actually sometimes not always the best thing to do. And it has to be ethical. And that's basically what we have been talking about in this document. And then we have the third part, which I think is very important. That's you can have the best intentions in the world, but if you have a crappy implementation, those intentions doesn't count. You have to actually realize the system in a way that's safe, secure, and robust. And I think that's actually a step that's sometimes missed. And I think we are kind of at the tipping point now, where people are starting to lose the trust in these systems. People are starting to be afraid that, this will actually turn things into the worse. But if we manage, and I think that goes out to all companies and all organizations, to really embrace this. If you are able to build this trustworthy system that we as citizens, consumers, and people in general actually trust, then we will see that it's much easier to get these systems deployed and used. So I really, really think that trust is the central issue here. So why is artificial intelligence different? I think there are a number of interesting characteristics here. First of all, it's about scale. I mean, now you can scale up solutions dramatically. You can also speed them up, so it's completely different time scales. And I think this is actually something that a lot of people don't realize, that scale and speed makes a huge difference. Especially when it comes to this human control and how to get the humans to control this. But it's also about single-mindedness, optimization-based systems, that they're basically trying to optimize some kind of function objective. And then we get into this question of how do we define these objectives so that it actually captures what we want the systems to do. And then we get problems like value alignment problems and these interesting things. But then we have a number of interesting characteristics of these systems, is that they don't have any needs. You could turn off a computer and, I mean, it doesn't bother it. You could turn it on a week later, a month later, a year later, and we just continue where it were before. It doesn't even recognize that time has passed. And it cannot break the rules. That's kind of the definition of a program, is it will follow the rules of the program, and it cannot kind of go outside them, which is actually challenging in some situation, that, oh, there is some really bad situation, and no, I have to follow the rules, so I cannot just steer off the road, because then I will break the rules, so I would just continue straight, and so on. So actually this not breaking the rule can be a challenge, and it doesn't have any real consequences. So how do you punish an AI? That's a big question. So to kind of conclude, I think we are actually at the point where we see now the trend is really going upwards, and that means that you as organizations, if you haven't already started to change, it's really, really important that you start changing now, because if you doesn't, you will have big problems. Because what's interesting is that if you change before the new trend really comes in effect, then you have a healthy balance of different types of customers. Those that will jump on any new thing that you do, those that will follow if it's reasonably successful. But if you wait too long after the trend really has broken, then you will have a much worse situation, because the mix of customers is that most of the customers that you have are those that never ever want to change. And of course the worst thing you can ever do in that situation is do a customer survey of what they want. You can predict the answer will be, it should be as it was 5 years ago, or even better 10 years ago. So don't do that. And please don't be Kodak. I mean, they were basically at the height, and they had most of the patents related to digital photography. They were fully aware that digital photography existed, and they could do it, but the board made a decision, basically said that, nah, we are good at paper. We're making money from paper and chemicals. So let's sell these patents and continue with normal photography. You can imagine what happens next, so don't be Kodak. So to conclude, AI is really about understanding what intelligence is and building machines that can behave in an intelligent manner. And AI will affect all parts of society, and I think that education is the key here, because there's a lot of things we don't know, and there's a lot of things that we believe we know that are actually incorrect. And I think education will be a central part in raising the competence, raising the awareness, and being able to make better decisions and actually use this very powerful technology in a correct manner. And what should you do? I mean, learn more. I mean, experiment, try things. That's a very good way of learning, is to try. And then do concrete projects on important topics. Don't do pilot studies. Do real projects. And then learn from them. Because it's really hard to go from pilot and then introduce it later on if you haven't thought about it from the start. And then scale up. When you found something that works, scale it up. And remember this, digital tools on their own will not solve the problem. You have to work with the processes. So it's not only a technical problem, it's an organizational problem, it's a business problem. You have to develop your organization, your business. And remember, it's not about either people or AI. It's really about humans and AI together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fredrik. We're really happy to have Linköping University here, an important partner, academic partner for us, together with AI Competence of Sweden, in making this course happen in Sweden. And Fredrik has hands-on actually worked with the translations as well.
Yes, read and given a lot of comments on it, yes.
Yeah.
Improved it, hopefully.
And you are not the representative of like the general public when it comes to AI knowledge, I presume. But so what are your thoughts? What are your takeaways from the course?
What I really like about this course is that it doesn't only focus on, for example, machine learning or neural networks or something like that, but it actually tries to give a broader perspective. It actually covers this kind of search-based, structured way of trying different approaches, which is more, it's actually basis of machine learning as well, but they don't realize it. But so it is search-based approaches, also about how do you deal with the uncertainties of the real world, and then of course also talk about machine learning and neural networks, and then in the end looking at the broader perspective, what are the impacts on society. So it's really kind of, even though it's short and you can do it relatively quickly, It's give a broad perspective, and it's not shallow. It actually takes one more step beyond the most obvious thing that you might read in the newspapers. Those are the two things I really like.
That's great. Can I ask a tricky question? Who should not take the course?
Those that have taken a more advanced course.
No. Thank you. Thank you, Fredrik. So another important partner in this is Vinnova, and from Vinnova we have Karin, Sevedag, Communications, and Lindmark, Innovation Management. So please welcome Vinnova on stage.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting us to this very exciting event. Vinnova is proud to have financed the translation of elements of AI into Swedish to make it more accessible to people in Sweden. What is Vinnova? Most of you probably don't know. We are Sweden's innovation agency. Our task is to promote sustainable growth by funding needs-driven research and development of effective innovation systems. That could sound a bit complicated. What does it mean in reality? Well, we work every day to make Sweden an innovative force in a sustainable world, a leading global player in research and innovation, and a country that is attractive for investment and entrepreneurship. It's a great job, I promise. We are a governmental agency. Primarily, we finance innovative projects where industry, enterprises, public sector, and academic researchers together cooperate to contribute to sustainable growth. We're also the Swedish government's expert authority in the area of innovation policy. Vinnova employs 200 people, and we're based in Stockholm, Brussels, Silicon Valley, and Tel Aviv. To us, Sweden's ability to take advantage of the opportunities that AI opens and to meet the potential challenges that arises is very important. It's top priority. All of our activities, directly or indirectly, strives towards the UN Sustainable Goals stated in Agenda 2030. Technological development is crucial in building this sustainable society. Sweden both needs to remain at the front and to ensure that the public takes part in the development. Education and broad competence are keys to success. And I know that many of you have accepted the challenge to help with the broad competence in Sweden. As Fredrik mentioned before, about 1 year ago we launched a report that showed Sweden's AI capability. It was part of government assignment. Since then we have several activities running, and Annie here will tell you more about those shortly. As you see, one of the areas identified was that Sweden needs broad supplementary education in AI. And we're so proud that we have financed the translation of elements of AI into Swedish as one response to this need. All across society, people need a general understanding of what AI is, the possibilities it opens, what impact it can have on one's own work and life, and how they can benefit from it. And elements of AI in Swedish is one opener. Today I represent Vinnova Management. We find this so important that we have decided that we will aim for 30% of our employees to have completed the course during 2019. I know that many of you in here already have accepted the same challenge for your organization. How many of you have accepted the challenge already? Okay, excellent. So to make this happen, at Vinnova we will both encourage self-studies and we will organize study groups. And I ask all of you who already know about the challenge, who have accepted the challenge, to help us. Ask everyone else you meet. Do you accept the challenge? Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Annie. I'm very happy to be here today. I think this initiative is so awesome and, as said in the beginning, simple. And isn't that the truth sometimes, that the most simple things are the most hard to actually achieve? Doing things complex, that's actually pretty simple. Today I'm going to speak a little bit about why Vinnova think that competence is a key to enable AI-driven innovation. Also giving 2 examples of questions that I usually meet, and also end up with giving some examples of what we're doing within the area. So you just saw this picture, as Karin mentioned. We have identified some things that we need to really work with to enhance AI in Sweden, and one of them is education in AI. As a program manager at Vinnova, I read loads of applications every week. Very often I see the word AI, but a common mistake is that an organization or a company has used the word AI and are planning on having an AI project without really asking themselves for what need, for what use, and what does it mean for us. And I think that this is the case often, and when this is the case, it's often due to the lack of competence and knowledge within the area. So we really need to help these companies to start their journey by first thinking about what is AI for us and what it means before they start doing use cases. But first, how do you imagine AI? And this is no trick question. I mean, today there are so many images, as we heard before, about the definition of AI and what it is and what it could become. And I believe that if we get more people to understand the importance of what AI is, they would feel more motivated than threatened by it. Because when looking in media, you often see these headlines that feels kind of, AI is this mysterious, dangerous, new technology that will take over our jobs and lives. But education, increased competence, and knowledge sharing, I think, is very necessary to answer many of the doubts that we have about AI and the future. Because often we feel nervousness of the unknown. That's part of being human. So I think we need to create a more open and inclusive discussion about this area to make people feel comfortable asking those stupid questions that actually is very needed in order to move forward in the learning process. I will now go through 2 common questions that I get when talking about AI to people that I think is important to address. So the first one is, isn't AI only for the tech elite? The short answer is no. The term artificial intelligence may sound intimidating and hard, but it has actually been used for decades, and its applications are more common than most of the people know. We are actually using AI daily in loads of different ways. So first, for example, I mean, some of the obvious ones, the chatbots, who a lot of us are using daily in customer service situations. Google Maps, when calculated traffic or the quickest route, that's AI at work. My favorite, music services giving me advices during what kind of music I should listen to based on my old music lists. And of course, also the online shopping, who giving me recommendations of my buying habits. By giving both these simple examples that I just did, but also adding some more complex, I think that we would encourage a broader group to be engaged and interested in what AI could mean for us and already do for our daily life. But now I just talked about AI applications and using them. What about, is it for everyone to work and create AI solutions? Or is that still only for the tech elite? My answer is still no on that question. Today we have a great variety of tools, methods, online courses that are available to help democratize the field of AI. And elements of AI, which we all here for today, is one obvious, really great course, an example, but we have many more. Fast AI, making deep learning easier, have educated around 100,000 students since it launched. We have Peltorium, who provides an operational AI platform for producing real-world AI applications. We have the more maybe playful examples here in the end, Lobe, who offers users an easy drag-and-drop interface for building deep learning algorithms. Or the Swedish startup Imagine Labs, who creates basic tutorials to help especially young girls to be interested in technology and programming. And on that note, I also want to highlight the great importance of diversity within the field of AI. A very strong argument to why we need to make everyone interested and attract a more diverse group of both developers, users, and researchers into this area is simply because leaving a big part of the population out of the conversation in a technology that will have such a huge part of shaping our future will not create the most sustainable and successful solutions for our society. So the second question I often get is, will AI take all of our jobs? The short answer is here again, maybe no, not in that direct way. I would say that maybe instead of taking our jobs, it's probably rather changing some of our jobs and making it, creating new types of jobs. According to a study made of McKinsey, approximately 30% of global working hours could be automated by 2030. In general terms, AI's part in this could, instead of just replacing people's work, assist current workers who no longer require undertaking the more maybe repetitive aspects of their jobs. And these employees could instead focus on maybe more strategic or analytic approach. And in the same report, they talk about when looking at technology, yes, we can see that technology adoption can and often does significant short-term labor displacement. But history also shows that in the long term, it creates multiple new jobs within new sectors. I mean, just look at the internet. For quite a while, we were scared that the internet would take our jobs, and a lot of jobs actually was replaced with new jobs and new roles that we never could imagine for 25 years ago. I think this example by Byron Reese is pretty good when talking about new technology, automation, and business opportunities. He takes the ATM as an example of when they launched the ATM. A lot of people were scared of losing their job as a teller, but actually they could see in a pretty short time that this would lower the cost of opening bank branches, and bank responded by opening more, which became in the end that they offered more teller job. And isn't it so? Technology has progressed non-stop for 250 years now, and have during these years both taken but also created millions of new jobs and roles. And in Accenture's report titled Reworking the Revolution last year, you could see that they estimate that new applications of AI combined with human collaboration could instead boost employment with up to 10% by 2020. So let's go over a little bit to what we are doing at Vinnova in this area. First of all, we're investing around 500 million Swedish kronor into the AI development, research, and stimulation the coming years. And we are also having focus on three main areas. The first one is data and infrastructure. Here we want to support mainly AI environments, labs, and other initiatives that spur innovation, can create open data, and collaboration between businesses and branches. The second area we are focusing on is innovation capabilities. Here we have education, education elements of AI that we talk about today. But also we want to support companies to have a staff exchange in AI. We also have an open call right now on how to start your AI journey, where you can apply for funding for do that. And the third area is more research focused, where we, for example, have open calls in applied research projects in 3 fields. And this area of focus of ours will continue the years to come. But I would also like to emphasize and tell you a little bit about that this was we have this dedicated AI financing, but we also can see that AI is being promoted in loads of different other programs at Vinnova. We do promote it in, I would say, almost all of our programs, where, for example, last year we approved 4 times more projects with AI than we did 2 years ago. And we can see a rapid increase, especially within startups applying to Vinnova with having AI as their business model. Here I've chosen some examples of projects that we financed. I think they can represent a broad palette of different companies with a broad aspects of different industries. So we have Alex. Alex is an impact tech startup combining cognitive behavioral therapy with artificial intelligence to help people quit bad habits. We have Hedvig in an app or a service within the insurance tech who create an automated AI-based insurance medicine system. We have Lobi, a drone company using drone data combined with AI, for example, predicting natural disasters. We have Trust Trace, they are working with traceability within the fashion industry. We have Pocket Law, legal tech, we have loads of different with AI using. And also Matching ID, service that creates unprejudiced diversity recruitment with help of AI. So this is just some examples of the loads of the different cool projects that we have in our portfolio focusing on AI. But I would just like to leave you with some general advices of how you could start your AI journey within your company or organization. First and foremost, of course, as we heard previous speakers talk about, educate yourself and your organization, participate in the course elements of AI, and do it even if you feel that you know the basics of AI, I would say. Do not underestimate knowledge sharing. At Vinnova we have, for example, lunch and learn sessions. I think that's a great example of getting more people in the loop and getting inspired. Check out our database for inspiration of what other projects or other companies are doing. Define strategic value that AI can serve you first and then find a use case. Set strategic goals, create internal awareness of where you're going, what's your plan. And if you're on your way, feel free to check out Vinnova's open call right now that we finance Start Your AI Journey. So that's all for me. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Karin. We're so glad to have you here, like both with money and also, but also like that you didn't forget to take on the challenge yourself, like for everybody in the organization. That's a really good thing. And speaking of further education, another partner in this is AI Competence of Sweden, and we have Jan Smith from AI Competence and Chalmers here with us today. Here's his image. Okay. So I will leave this one to you if you want it.
So the next slide is...
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will say a few words about, not very much time left, about an initiative from the Swedish government, AI Competence for Sweden. But I cannot resist saying something about AI after it's there. Why are we in this enormous explosion of AI? The explanation is really Moore's law, which is this, that we have an exponential growth of almost every parameter in the speed of a computer each 18th month and so, and memory and all these things. And it has been going on for more than 50 years. And I have been in this field for a very long time. I have seen that constantly new doors are open up. Very surprising. And now we have got artificial intelligence, which has been around for a long time but never really have worked before. But suddenly the computers are so fast that they can handle it. So I was thinking the main algorithms in AI, the deep learning, they were invented in the 1980s. Invented or discovered, however you look at it. And if you look at the supercomputer at that time, which costed 100 million, I think Sweden had one or two. One is in Linköping. The smartphones you have in front of us are much, much faster than these supercomputers that cost 100 millions in the 1980s. So you can just imagine that this dramatically has changed. And now the door have opened up for AI. And we are only seeing the beginning of it. dramatic things will happen in this field in the next few years. I'm pretty sure about that. Well, so this is now AI competence for Sweden. So one of the organizers here is AI Innovation of Sweden. And in fact, it was quite a lot of things happening about a year and a half ago. The company Sinuity, who is about self-driving cars and so, wanted to create some big ecosystem around AI and had a lot of plans of what to do. And it boiled down in two things, I would say. One was AI Innovation of Sweden, which now Vinnova has taken care of. It started about a year ago, with Peter Eriksson was the minister handling it, and Vinnova is financing. The other thing that came out of that was this AI competence for Sweden, which also is I mean, it's mainly the Ministry of Education that's behind it, but also the Ministry of Enterprise, as you heard Ygeman say. So, so this is a national initiative for education and competence development in artificial intelligence. And we started off with 7 universities. It was quite a process during last spring. We didn't get the money until the summer, but all the rectors of this university really met the government several times, which impressed the government that all of them stood up for this. And so the university that we have here, it's Chalmers, in alphabetic order, Gothenburg University, KTH, Linköping, Lund, Ygeman, Örebro. And we are really having a lot of different competencies. I mean, we have these technical universities like Chalmers and KTA and Linköping and so on, but we also have a very broad university like Gothenburg University with, for instance, digital humaniora, digital humanities. Mats Malm, the new member of the Swedish Academy, comes from that group. So it's a very diverse thing here. And Örebro is a young university, but they have a very strong group in robotics and are very good in this kind of education with a lot of courses, financed by the KK Stiftelsen. I think they got 22 million quite recently. So this is really a diversity thing, and it's not that common that a lot of university works together, I would say, we had a joint workshop for a day with the industry, which Chalmers and KTH had together, and we had a questionnaire afterwards, and several of the participants said that how nice and surprising that Chalmers and KTH can work together. So I think the point, so let me take. So the money that we got for this, it's really the main part. We have got 40 millions for 18 and 19. It's really for courses development and starting up there. And I think this has had a really catalytic effect on it, because suddenly a lot of energy get into creating all these courses. And I mentioned Gothenburg University, which is the broadest and has not very much of this kind of education. They have suddenly a lot of different things going on, which they never would have started otherwise. I mean, they have a School of Economics. We are in the School of Economics here, so they want to develop things there. And so this has really been a catalytic effect for it. And that's one part of it. The other part is what we call a knowledge platform. That is that we should work together and really help each other and cooperate. And that consists of, we have had a number of meetings. We started already before we got the money, because we were quite sure that we would get them. So it has been a number of physical meetings. And the other thing there is that we also have a homepage, of course. So these are the two aspects that we want to develop this homepage. There you can find all the courses. It's still a little bit on work to do on it, but it's open and you can see it. So the idea is that you can find all the courses that this university gives, and you can find, well, you can search after the subject, you can search for the place and the time and the length and how advanced it is. So that is the point of it. But these 7 universities is the starting point. but we are now about to open it up for more universities, the homepage. So this will really function for the whole of Sweden's university side to show up courses for working professionals. So they will not get the money, unfortunately, because that was directly sent out to these universities. But it seems like they are equally interested anyhow. Perhaps I wouldn't say that when there are people about to give money here at Vinnova and so, but somehow money isn't the problem here because it's such a hot subject. The really thing is to cooperate and make good things out of it, I would say. But of course we need the money. This would never have happened without this catalytic money that came from the government, I would say. Well, I stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. So, when you have finished the elements of AI, you know where to look for deepening your
You might even find more elementary courses there.
Oh, okay.
That's the whole range. It's really the whole range of it. Perhaps there is some special field you are interested in. You might find it there.
So,
but of course you should take AI elements. Of course. That's obvious.
So, actually, AI and the elements of AI, the Swedish version went live this morning. So, and we have this goal. We want 100,000 people to take this course, to like get the momentum in learning what this is all about. To sum this up, I know that we have gotten a lot of ideas here on how to move forward, like from Vinnova, AI Competence, and how you do it. But is there anybody? Is there any representative companies in here that would like to just explain how you are going about this and how do you approach it? Yeah, please introduce.